I'd like to officially welcome you all to this session of the program. For those of you who don't know me, I am Niveshen, Govender, the Chief Operating Officer of the South African Photovoltaic Industry Association and a board member of the Global Solar Council. As we approach the peak of the third wave of this pandemic and record an all-time high of over 25,000 new positive cases per day in South Africa, I hope that you are all keeping well and safe wherever you are. Thank you to those of you who are joining today's session. I hope that you are enjoying the Global Solar Council's Virtual Conference 2021 so far. As we approach the end of the two-day conference, today's theme is covering solar power in Sub-Saharan Africa, covering the main challenges and key opportunities for development across the region. Our session today is focused on the regional cooperation and the role of the Global Solar Council's African Task Force, and will be broken into two parts. The format of the first part will follow a series of presentations, and we will try to accommodate some questions, time permitting, at the end of the session. The format of the second part will be a panel discussion with some of Africa's markets slowly but surely progressing on the renewable energy agenda. Please can I ask that you feel free to use the chat function to pose questions, both to this panel and the next one. With that being said, I'd like to kick off the first part of this session and ask the speakers to get ready. The International Energy Agency estimates that there are 770 million people with no access to electricity across the world. And 75% of these people live in Sub-Saharan Africa. Renewable energy, and solar PV specifically, provides a solution that is accessible and affordable and should be considered at the pace and the scale that makes the best possible sense. Today's presentations will be undertaken by leaders in industry who will provide insights into off-grid solar energy for remote communities. Each of our speakers have very impressive CVs, which can be requested, so I will not be going through them and covering all of the achievements in detail. First up, we have Ms. Amanda Sola. Amanda is the Project and Communications Officer at the Alliance for Rural Electrification. She in this role leads on the development of knowledge products, stakeholder engagement, and communications campaigns on energy nexus topics to shape the international agenda towards the achievement of affordable, secure, and clean electricity access for all by 2030. She's well-versed in the energy access, finance, research, and advocacy with an academic background in business and climate change policy. Amanda, please can I ask that you bring up your presentation?
Thank you very much for the fantastic presentation. I would just like to start my presentation. Could you kindly let me know when the presentation is ready? Perfect. So first of all, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning for some of you, surely. It is a pleasure to be here today, and I would like to very much thank you, the organizers of the event, for having me as part of this interesting session. My name is Amanda Soler. I am the Project and Communications Officer at the Alliance for Rural Electrification, or ARE as we name it. ARE is the global association for the decentralized renewable energy industry, catalyzing private sector-driven markets for sustainable electricity services, creating jobs, and powering equitable and green economies. Today, we federate more than 180 member companies active in Latin America and the Caribbean, Southeast Asia, and also and especially Sub-Saharan Africa. Our members also cover all types of renewable technologies, and also sizes from solar home systems to mini grids. Now, since our establishment in 2006, we've always had a very strong focus on Africa, particularly Sub-Saharan Africa. And as you can see on the slide, 86% of our members are quite active in this region. And then we also have a particular focus on solar PV, where you can see that is covered by 79% of our membership. We also support multiple actors within the decentralized renewable energy industry, mainly via three action lines. So as part of the market intelligence and business development line, we provide round-the-year networking opportunities for our members at big industry fora, as well as workshops and industry consultations. And we also make sure that they get all the available exclusive information from the DRE market via our weekly alerts, via best practices presentations and publications, and also via direct business advice. The second line, policy and advocacy support, is a strong line for us, and we use it to promote an enabling environment for the DRE sector to grow, as I will explain in a moment. And then last but not least, the communications and marketing line really underpins all the activities that we develop. As of today, I'm very happy to announce that we surpassed the 20,000 mark of followers on social media. We also have around 14,000 readers of our newsletter and around 5,500 unique visitors a month on our website, which put us in a really good position to advocate for the DRE industry and unify the voices within our sector. Globally, but also especially in Sub-Saharan Africa. And before I move on to discuss a little bit more the type of partnerships that we are engaged in and how they are helping us deliver the objectives that we have, I would like to share some general data on, well, to set the scene. So let's begin with the good news. We are very happy to see that since 2010 to 2020, around 1.1 billion people have gained access to electricity. We also see that the decentralized renewable energy market is not anymore a niche, and that private sector companies have managed within the same period to raise around 2.1 billion in finance, which has been also translated for off-grid solar companies to 360 million in 2020, most of it allocated to companies active in Africa. But despite this progress, we are well aware that Sub-Saharan Africa remains the region with the largest electricity access gap in the world. And as of today, it accounts for around 75% of the total unelectrified people. This is particularly true for countries like Nigeria, like Democratic Republic of Congo, and also Ethiopia. And in fact, at current rates of electrification, it is well noted that around 660 million people could remain without access to clean and affordable electricity by 2030, out of which 85% will live in Sub-Saharan Africa. In this regard, not all is challenges. Those challenges can also serve to provide some good opportunities for the decentralized renewable energy sector to grow, and also for the communities that they serve. So why am I saying this? Because decentralized renewable energy solutions can generate income through increased productivity, as well as local job creation, particularly within the agri-food supply chain. They can also reduce dependency on expensive, unreliable and polluting fuels, and therefore translate into community savings and better health. And they are fundamental to enable essential services and the provision of basic goods, particularly around education, health, food, water, etc., which are just very necessary to support the communities within the current context to recover faster and better from the pandemic. Decentralized renewable energy solutions are also very important to increase autonomy and resilience to climate change by modernizing traditional productive practices within the communities and also supporting community members to diversify their local economies. And in many cases where the business models innovate around community inclusiveness and are very thorough implemented, they can also allow for a better distribution of the resources and reduce inequalities. But how does RE build on those opportunities to catalyze growth within the dairy sector? Well, we strongly believe that cooperation, particularly regional cooperation, is a fundamental pillar for the dairy market to reach its full potential. So in believing so, we've been engaging with multiple partners at the international, at the regional, and also at the national level. Amongst those types of partnerships, I would like to specifically stress our long-standing cooperation with GET.invest on mobilizing finance for off-grid renewables, particularly in the Sub-Saharan market. And we also believe that national strong dairy markets are fundamental to spur growth within the sector. And this is the reason why we collaborate hand in hand with national renewable energy associations, as well as local dairy industry and the renewable energy and energy efficiency centers of West, East, and Southern Africa. All in all, those partnerships allows us to develop and implement a series of activities that are at the core of our advocacy and policy efforts. So to name a few, fostering business to business, business to finance, and business to government partnerships. And a great example of this is our successful series of sustainable energy forums that we've been developing with our regional partners over the last few years, with some upcoming activities. So you can stay tuned for that on our newsletter. Another relevant activity for us is the development and implementation of major advocacy campaigns around many different topics. And I would like to particularly highlight our COVID-19 advocacy campaign that we launched last year, which attracted more than 150 signatories from the sector. But also best practices publications where we showcase the best expertise of our members within the market. And they are normally built around key topics in the sector. So the most recent ones have touched upon health, gender, and agriculture. And finally, in filling knowledge gaps and capacity building, particularly for decentralized renewable energy companies, as well as investors and policymakers. And here I included quite a few activities, but I would like to particularly mention 3 of them. So the first one is the Africa desk that we have set in cooperation with the African Development Bank. You can find more information on our website, so feel free to check there. The second activity is the Clean Energy Mini-Grids Policy Guide that we've developed in partnership with AMDA, UNIDO, INENSUS, and the AFTB Green Mini-Grid Help Desk itself, which is a useful tool for policymakers to tailor their mini-grid policies around their specific national contexts. Again, this is free to access for everyone. It's on our website, so you can go in, have a look, and let us know if we can support you further. And the third activity, I am very excited about to present it, is the investment academies that will serve SMEs to get more information about available funding within the sector that is particularly tailored to their development stage. as well as how to structure their funding proposals in a way that they are more successful. This activity will kick off in September. So likewise, please stay tuned and subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't done so yet. And to finalize, I'm very excited to say that to create a strong basis to support all our efforts, we have made an official commitment to achieve the SDGs, whereby RE has pledged to enable the private sector to deliver sustainable electricity services for basic low power appliances or above, catalyze the creation of at least 5 million green jobs, and avoid at least 1 billion tons of CO2 emissions. This is all part of our newly presented RE Energy Compact, and I'm sure you will hear more news about this very soon. And to conclude, I would like to invite everyone in the audience to join us, to join our network, our big family that is growing more and more every day, or to partner with us to close the energy access gap by 2030. Thank you very much again to the organizers, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you for setting the scene for us, highlighting some of the achievements that we have seen to date, some of the opportunities, and more importantly, possible approaches for us to do better going forward. Thank you for your inputs. Our next speaker is Patrick Trenoy. Patrick is the head of policy and regional strategy for GOGLA, the voice of the off-grid solar industry, and leads the work to engage with governments, development partners, and other stakeholders, growing and strengthening the market for clean, quality off-grid lighting and electrical systems by producing an enabling environment across off-grid markets. Patrick is an MBA and an MSc graduate, and has experience in economics and trade development, professional with 15 years experience in the public and private sector. Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, and I hope you can both see and hear me. Thank you. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all of you, wherever you are. I think this new way that we're doing business with COVID really has made us to adjust and really be flexible in how we engage. But I'm really excited to be part of this forum that the Global Solar Council is organizing for the second year in a row. So I think many of you should know and would know who GOGLA is. We are the Global Off-Grid Industry Association. We work on behalf of our members to pursue and to seek sustainable markets that allow our companies and our members to be able to offer their products to the customers who are off-grid and be able to do this in a sustainable manner as businesses. I think we are all aware around the global challenge, and I'm sure in between yesterday and today, and you heard Amanda talk about this same number too, is this question around the over 700 million people who today are living without access to modern energy. And for us, this is really important. As on one of my later slides, you'll see some of the places we are having impacts in the communities and in the households that we're serving today. But we believe that with the right support, off-grid solar can actually scale and reach every community, or really regardless of wherever they live, even regardless of their income status. And with the right support, we can make sure that we don't leave anybody behind by 2030. So what are we talking about when we talk about off-grid solar products? And I think this resonates a little bit with what Amanda has presented before. For us as an industry, we talk about solar lanterns, which I think is quite underappreciated in some circumstances, but really has a space and a role that it's providing. We've seen in different circumstances, for example, solar lanterns providing a significant impact in enabling children go to school and actually expand their education facility, access to education. We're talking about solar home systems and household appliances, which are really used in the households or within micro and small enterprises. We're talking about the off-grid productive use appliances, which would go through things like solar irrigation pumps, agro-processing equipment, cooling solutions that are provided for farmers and for other people. And then we talk about our ability to impact and support community infrastructure, so street lighting, market centers, and schools, clinics, and those types of things are part of what we think we can impact on. And between, over the last 10 years, because this is some of the data we've been tracking, we've seen that today we are supporting about 34% of households in East Africa to undertake economic activities, with a number of them, 28%, reporting additional income beyond what they're earning. We've seen the statistics in West Africa talking about school children, 91% of customers saying their school-going children are able to actually do their homework and do a few other things because of their off-grid systems. We know we've generated about $11 billion in savings from the switch from kerosene and charcoal and some of these other things to off-grid solutions. In West Africa, in Asia, we're talking about over 90% of customers talking about they feel safer because of off-grid solar. And we know from 2010, we've impacted about 420 million people, but we know this is not enough to date. I think the other thing that I want to highlight is that when we look across the SDGs, because I think one of the things the global community, when they developed the SDGs, identified was access to energy really is significantly important and impacts a lot of other SDG goals, from the one on ending poverty, reducing hunger, improving health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, affordable and clean energy, work and economic growth. All these are areas that we know we are impacting today. And I think for us, the question is, for those communities who are off-grid, what do we need to do to be able to impact and also make sure that they don't get left behind in this conversation around economic development and inclusive development. So where are we today? I think this is probably going to be quite interesting for all of you. As I think you're all aware, GOGLA releases biannual sales data twice a year. In around September, October, we release a report that looks at the industry between January and July, and then in May, we release statistics to look at what happened in the second half of the year. So we look at what happened in 2020. I think we all obviously, and Niveshen mentioned, we're in the middle of this third wave of COVID. And when we look at what happened in 2020, we saw that unlike this increasing trend that we've been seeing over time, we saw a significant drop in sales below where we were even in 2015, to about 6.63 million sales globally in our sector. When we look at what was happening across the different regions, and I know today we are focused on Africa, so you will see this, statistics. East Africa has been leading in the market since we started tracking these statistics, but we did see a drop. What you're seeing is sales in the first and the second half of this, each of the periods covered. So while the numbers in the second half of 2020, which is in the gray, when we look at East Africa, went back up, the orange would have been in the first half of 2020. We can see both of those periods were behind where they were in 2019. And similarly, for most of the other markets, you look at North Africa, there was a significant drop. We go to Southeast Asia, again, a significant drop. And West Africa, it really was depressed. But we did see that, while West Africa held, generally, the trajectory saw that COVID did undermine our ability to reach and serve customers. And when we look around the appliances, because this is a reflector of what's going on in the ability to impact our productive use applications and power economic activities, we also saw that while it's been growing, but at the same time, this sector this side of the sales numbers that we're tracking did not show the growth that we would have liked and we would have liked to see. When I go to the next slide, this really is, it's switching to the question that I think brings us to what the second panel will talk about, is what are we doing and how are we going to reach the communities, particularly in Africa, that we are looking to serve. For us as GOGLA, this is one of the key things that as we talk to all stakeholders, we really want to remind everybody that we work in challenging markets. And why are these markets challenging? One, we are trying to serve rural off-grid customers who generally will be lower income or have limited ability to access finance or to generate income. And therefore, the ability for our customers to be able to afford the products that we're selling them is a key constraint. The second one is really across all the markets, we continue to see a persistence of unfavorable policies or regulations, or lack of enabling policies or regulations. In sometimes where there's it's nothing unfavorable, but the lack of a policy framework that allows us to be able to establish, to provide and enable investment into our space, and really help us to attract business investment into the businesses and to grow and scale, is a constraint. The third one is really around what happens when we have poor quality or counterfeit products in the market. We from East Africa know that, looking back about 10 years ago, that a big problem is when our customers buy a product that does not work, then it really undermines the ability and the confidence in the solutions that we are saying are going to be important going into the future. And therefore, we're also thinking about the constraint and about how do we make sure we communicate this value and the benefit that we can impact to all the key audiences. This is the governments, the funders, the investors, and the customers themselves. And in this regard, also the issue about how do we stimulate more and more investment that we need to support all the growth in the sector that we would need. When we look at what happened last year, just switching back with COVID, we can see that obviously, as I previously indicated, we saw a reduction in the market size, but we know that because of that, just in last year, we saw about 10 to 15 million people that would have benefited from access to our solutions in last year alone go without because of what happened. The other disruption that I want to bring attention to right now that is affecting us as we have this conversation, and as I'm going towards the end of my presentation, is what's going on in the supply chain. If you've been following the stories coming out of Asia and what the sector is really reporting, not just for us, but a lot of the sectors that depend on ICT and electronics and those types of inputs and raw materials, is that there is a problem in the supply chain coming from Asia and from the raw materials and the availability of some of the inputs. And we are already seeing that we expect that there will probably be shortages or price increases influenced by this as we look at the latter structure. So I'm at the end of my presentation, but I want to pose these questions to everybody and also to the second panel. As we look to serve and reach all our consumers or the people who are off-grid across Sub-Saharan Africa and all the other markets, and we know that their affordabilities are constrained, how are we, or what do we need to do to make sure that we are able to address that affordability question? What should the governments do in terms of the tax policy or fiscal policy in this space? Should we be bringing on board public support program or subsidies to help make sure that those who just cannot afford find ways to be able to get access to our product? We are asking, when we look at the different countries and markets that we're working in, We know that there are some countries that have adopted very specific national plans that identify how they are going to reach their rural communities and what are the components that the grid will offer, what are the components that the mini grids will play, and where does off-grid solutions play. And that is where it allows for planning, both at the public sector side as well as with stakeholders. But there's still too many countries that do not have a defined plan. The third one is really, as we move beyond access to electricity, what can we do to drive now the economic impacts from our solutions and what we're offering, so that we're not just providing lighting, but we're enabling economic activity. And then lastly, what are the policy enabling legal, regulatory, fiscal, and everything else in terms of policy actions that we need, or program actions we need from government, from development partners, and also from industry. And how long will this engagement be needed if we are to make sure that nobody is left behind? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you for driving awareness to the challenge of people without access to electricity. I think it's a key challenge that we need to be addressing, stressing the role of off-grid solar particularly, and the solution that it provides and the opportunity it provides to people, highlighting the impact that GOGLA has made so far, and highlighting the market challenges. I feel that there are too many unanswered questions there at the end of your presentation. So I think with leaders like yourself and others in the room, we should be able to come up with solutions and engage our governments to ensure that we have an enabling environment that is in the best interest of people of Sub-Saharan Africa. But thank you for that. Moving on to our last speaker in this segment is Ilham Talab. Ilham is based in Brussels as a technical advisor to GET.invest, a European program supported by the EU, Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Austria. It aims at mobilizing investment in renewable energy projects and companies. Ilham has much experience in supporting enterprises, designing trainings and policy advisory initiatives, and using data for decisions. Ilham, can I ask you to please bring up your presentation, and over to you.
Great. I think I did share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much, Nivesh. And I'm really happy to be here, part of this amazing panel, Patrick, Amanda, and the others. My name is Ilham Talab. I work as a technical advisor with GET.invest, and I'm speaking to you today from Brussels. And I think my position here is quite good because I could position ourselves as some of the solution providers to some of the problems mentioned and the challenges that indeed are repeatedly encountered in such markets that we all work within, which is the energy access market. So I would like to keep my presentation quite short and just give you a brief intro about GET.invest for those that are joining us for the first time. And then I will dig deeper a little bit into how we can support the companies, how we do support the companies, and finally end with giving you two examples of two companies that we've supported in the past, just to give you a flavor of the type of support that we can provide and also the impacts on the ground. So moving on, okay, hope you can see the next slide. This is just a brief overview of who we are as GET.invest. We are a European program that are aiming primarily to mobilize investments in decentralized renewables. Currently, we are active in Sub-Saharan Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific. Mainly active in Sub-Saharan Africa, with focus on all the business models basically under the energy access space. Our work would have never been possible, of course, without the support of our donors. So we are supported by the European Union, Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Austria. And as a program, just a small detail, we are implemented by GIZ under what we call the Global Energy Transformation Program, or GET Pro. Now, what we provide as GET.invest, we provide 3 main services that you can see here summarized on the left side. The first one is our core service. This is what we call the finance catalyst. This is basically a TA facility, so technical assistance facility, supported by a number of seasoned advisors specialized in different areas, but mainly in finance and helping companies raise capital and fundraise and access finance. At the moment, as I'm speaking to you, we are busy advising around 100 clients that we call active clients. And on the right side of the slide, you could see the range of different services that we offer usually. Obviously, this is just like the major type of support, but the details vary case by case. But we could provide investment strategy support, support specifically in terms of business models or financial models. Obviously, the main work is also to link the companies or the projects to the appropriate financing, basically leveraging the wide network of financiers that we've built through the years, and the trust that we have established with them. And finally, of course, some of the support actually entails advisory support, advising in terms of negotiating term sheets, for example, or an off-taker agreement, etc. I will go a little bit in details about this type of support on my next slide, but just moving to the other 2 types of activities that we do as GET.invest. The second one is engaging with the private sector and mobilizing the private sector. And this is something similar to what we do here, for example, working also with our partners, supporting the industry associations, and trying to bring people together to meet, to talk, to shake hands, because we believe that it is an important part of driving those investments. You need to create trust, you need to bring people together, you need to know about what's going on in the sector. So this is what we do under our events and matchmaking. Also, we do provide market intelligence information, and actually I'd like to invite you all to check our new websites, because we have updated our market info information that we hope would give project developers and companies an easy access to whenever they write their pre-feasibility studies or proposals, etc. So you can get some practical information from our market info components. And actually, as part of that, you can also see that we have updated a funding database. This was quite a popular product on our website, so now we have an updated one that is easier to navigate, also mobile friendly, and has many more investors. We will keep on adding to it, but it's already quite lengthy. The last type of support that we try to do is to build capacities across different sectors and working with our partners as well, delivering this service. And mainly this is to support companies and project developers whenever there is like a need for specific trainings, etc. But sometimes also we work with regulators in partnership with our other sister program, GET.transform. Now, moving on the next slide, this is just a deep dive into the main core service that I mentioned on my previous slide, which is the finance catalyst. As you can see here, the finance catalyst is really an open facility. It's a TA facility, it's an on-demand TA facility. The idea is that projects and companies apply through our website. We try to keep the application as simple and straightforward. Obviously, we are trying to help. So you could check the website, and if you're interested, if this is something that you need, please reach out to us if you have any questions. Otherwise, feel free to send an application. This is a rolling basis application. And if you are accepted, as you can see, this is the funnel that we're dealing with. Obviously, this also represents the challenge in the sector that was talked about by my previous speaker, Patrick. Our role or our objective is to make this funnel as wider and wider from the bottom, but obviously this is our challenge. Currently, we stand at 33 financial closes, totaling almost €500 million in terms of investment mobilized. So basically this is an open facility. I encourage anyone that is listening to me right now to reach out if you have any questions, and check our website link to see if this is something that you need to apply for support. The facility supports projects in all different renewable energy market segments for energy access, and we try to focus on, in terms of investment tickets, we try to the starting point is really from $250,000 onwards, but obviously this is something that is decided on a case-by-case basis. Now, this is probably the most interesting part of this presentation, where I'm going to give 2 slides on 2 examples, practical examples of some of the companies that we've supported in the past. First one is Tonui Solar. Probably many of you have heard of them. They are a Tanzania-based company. They sell solar-powered lights for fishing and irrigation. And they reached us because they had difficulties really securing long-term financing partners, because they were looking for smaller tickets, and they're also quite a young company. So we started working with them, engaging with them since 2018. And our support spanned a number of activities, but actually it was around helping them improve their business model, their project documentation, their financing strategy. And after the support, they were able to successfully raise 2 million euros. That was from Acumen Fund and Chroma and Impact Capital, and a follow-on financing by Electrify of 1.5 million. As a result of this whole thing, they have been able to hire almost 100 or over 100 employees locally, and also reach out to over 12,000 fishermen and farmers in the countries they're operating in, Tanzania and Uganda, basically. So the second example that I would like to share today is another company, also solar system, Pego Systems, based in Cameroon. They had problems in defining strategy to access additional equity and grants for basically expansion and scale up. And we supported them also again on multiple fronts, basically improving their business case, filling the gaps in their financial model, making sure that they speak financial language. We also actually help them on another front, which sometimes underrated, I would say, which is to have the proper team. So they were looking for a CFO, and we've supported them to try to establish a strategy to find the appropriate staff that is knowledgeable about the markets and can also help them to continue their fundraising efforts. Successfully, they have raised around 3 million euros from Electrify as well. And the idea, or they're hoping to connect eventually 165,000 people to clean power when they scale up. So these are just some of the examples that gives you a flavor of some of the work that we do under the Finance Catalyst, trying to help companies access and raise capital. I try to focus on solar companies and last mile, but we also do other types of business models, including IPPs, CNI, commercial and industrial applications, mini grids, and also clean cooking, in addition to energy efficiency and many others as well. I think I'll stop here. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I think we will open the floor for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Ilham. I see we are running out of time. We have just over a minute left. Thank you for covering the GET.invest services and telling us what kind of support programs are out there. And most so, thank you for showcasing the impact that GET.invest has on local businesses, local employment, and helping local communities advance in renewable energy. So I think as closing comments, as we close out this segment of the session, maybe Ilham, do you want to maybe elaborate on some of the factors that are affecting the success of solar companies driving energy access?
Yeah, I think that fits well as a follow-up question. Well, there are obviously a lot of a lot of different areas where we see companies need to focus on, and or the reasons for some of the failures, right? But I would like to just bring up a couple of them that keep on repeating, and they are not emphasized usually in the sector. So the first one is to have the right team. I think this is very important, especially when the company is young and trying to still build a track record and approaching investors. We know a lot of, for example, impact investors and others that say, you know, I don't usually just invest in paper in the business plan because I know that it's never perfect. I'm actually investing in the people. So I think having the right team with you when you're just starting as a young company is very important when you're approaching investors. Another point is to digitize your business and make sure your numbers is appropriate and tracked properly. This has to link actually with my next point, which is reporting your impact to investors. A lot of investors, sometimes companies, they report wrong numbers to their investors, but it's not, especially when they are impact investors, but it's not because they're doing something wrong. It's just because there is a misunderstanding of what does this impact criteria mean or imply, or how to measure it. So I think having that communication with your investor, or if it's an impact investor, is very important to, it's better to ask than to assume, I'd say.
I'm going to have to stop you there. Sorry, we are running out of time, and I want to give the other speakers a chance to close out. Patrick, just in terms of impact, can you agree with Ilham in her assessment? What is the one thing that we really need to do to create a bigger impact?
Honestly, I'd say let's learn from what's worked. So where we put the right policy in place and we actually all deliberately work to reach the consumers, make sure they get a good product and we provide them the service, but we are addressing the constraints in reaching them. Access to finance, proper policy will be good. I think let's just learn from what's worked.
Excellent, thank you. Amanda, to close out the session, there's a lot of talk about challenges, there are possible solutions. Let's get to responsibility. Who's responsible to scale up decentralized renewable energy? And how are you guys at RA taking part in that?
Thank you, Nivesh. Well, I think it is not just a matter of selecting one or the other stakeholders and assign the responsibility to them. We really think that the best effort to address the electricity access gap by 2030 is to combine efforts from the public and the private space. And maybe just to keep it very briefly, we need enabling environment. We need policymakers developing the right policy framework for companies to unleash creativity, to adapt their solutions to the local ground, and also to attract private investors. We know that as of today, in order to meet the goal, investments need to increase threefold. So yeah, I think just to maybe summarize, we need cooperation between policymakers, private sector, international donors, and especially the companies that are providing the services, high quality, affordable services on the ground. And yeah, we will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. We have run out of time. We've used a couple of minutes from the next session, but thank you. You've wrapped it up perfectly. I'm going to leave it exactly there. Thank you again to all of you for providing your insights, for sharing with us today. It is much appreciated. In saying that, I'm going to move on to the next segment. I know we are a few minutes over. So in moving on, can I ask the colleagues of the panel or the panelists for the next session to please switch on your cameras so we can get ready for this panel session. Good, thank you very much. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Isaiah. Isaiah is the chairman of the Renewable Energy Association of Zimbabwe. Thank you for joining us, Isaiah. We have Geoffrey. Geoffrey is the chairperson of the Solar Industry Association in Zambia. I believe that Geoffrey is on the road, so he might be a few minutes late, but I'm sure he'll join us in the conversation. Alan is a board member of the Uganda National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Alliance. Enoch is the director of Renewable Energy Association of Ghana, and Prosper, the Tanzanian Renewable Energy Association chairperson. Thank you all for taking the time and joining us. I think each of you have important markets, so we need to discuss these markets and we need to understand what's happening in the markets across the region, and how can we bring in more support for renewable energy across the region and within your markets particularly. So just to say that each of these panelists, ladies and gentlemen, have impressive CVs. I've gone through all of them. Unfortunately, due to time, I'm not going to be able to read them out today, but they are accessible. They are on the websites. We can send them to you if you require them. So I'm going to go straight into the conversation. So just from my point of view, to start or kick off this conversation, in South Africa, the annual installed capacity for solar PV for 2020 particularly totaled just over 1.3 gigawatts. Breaking this down, we have almost over 800 megawatts of utility scale systems that have been installed and an estimated 500 megawatts on distributed generation. With this, I think the cumulative capacity of solar PV in South Africa has reached over 4 gigawatts over the last 10 years, of which 60% is then attributed to utility scale and 40% in the ever-growing distributed generation market. If we dig deeper into the 40%, 20% of that is residential application, while 80% of that is then commercial and industrial application here in South Africa. So that's kind of the market and the trends that we are seeing in South Africa. But I think it's important now to hear from you guys in terms of where are your markets. So I'm going to start the session off, and I'm going to allow each one of you 3 or 4 minutes to update us on the current market share of renewable energy or solar PV specifically in your countries. So I'm going to start with you, Isaiah. Can you give us an indication of the Zimbabwean market?
Thank you, Niveshen, and good afternoon, good morning for those who are in different parts of the country. In Zimbabwe, the issue is that we have independent power producers who have been granted licenses to actually also start, producing power and feeding to the, into the national grid, and also in other areas like housing, etc., etc. At the moment, our market as far as solar PV is concerned is quite low. In that, we've got about 10 megawatts or less than 10 megawatts, which is being basically generated from renewable energy, and of that less than 10 megawatts, we've got roughly about 7 megawatts coming from solar PV. But however, we've got quite a number of projects that are underway, that are actually under construction at the moment. And there is a big market that is not quantified, which is basically, the rooftop solar market, basically being driven by residential installations. Because of the power deficit that happened in the country, we have seen a lot of developments taking place on residential. And then there is also the market for, CNI, which has also been growing as well. Unfortunately, our statistics really are not that, detailed as it were. But there is a lot of development in those areas, including also, agriculture, where we have got a lot of farmers as well, taking on also, solar PV as well for their own operations. Yeah, I'll stop there for now, Niveshen.
Thank you, Isaiah. I think we all hear your struggle on documenting or collecting data on residential, commercial, industrial application projects. We all struggle I think even now we don't have a complete database of these projects here in South Africa. In saying that, Alan, can you take us to Uganda and give us an update on the market in Uganda?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Uganda is not so much different. We are just sort of diving into this commercialization of the mini grids, but a large percentage of the Ugandan solar market is, the unregulated, sort of untraceable, local market solar systems where people just wire them live battery to solar panel. But I would say that in the past sort of last 3 years with the growth of PEGO, we've seen, excuse my clock, we have seen that the growth of solar uptake has actually seen a larger contribution. I think about 1.9 million people accessed solar over the last 2 years, mainly because of the Uganda Solar Energy Association companies, which is about 200 companies now in Uganda, which has actually seen that grow from 80 fully registered to 202 over the last 2 years alone. And so you'll find that with that sort of uptake and that growth, especially in the last mile, a majority of this is within the sort of up and coming towns where, and also of course within Kampala, where a lot of the solar players are concentrated. But that for me is the more exciting sort of push, and that's the segment that actually needs to be served. And we find that the percentage of people who do not have access to energy in Uganda, which is about 30 million people out of a population of 42, 43 million, it's quite startling. So Uganda is still a very sort of young solar market because I think a lot of these technologies that have come in have really started only becoming prominent over the last, it's taken 5 years to get here. And a lot of the players are still majorly international players. And so we're still seeing that sort of uptake. And the policies that are quite enabling, I must say, to allow these companies to be able to start up, especially foreign companies. But we need to see a lot more sort of co-designing of these policies to make their implementation a lot seamless, because you find that those are the few things that are stagnating the market or preventing it from really taking up like the South African market or like the Kenyan market. And so that I think is a small nutshell of where we're at.
Great, thank you, Alan. That's extremely impressive. The market growth is extremely impressive in Uganda. We'll chat around later on. We'll chat around the policy indicators and the challenges to entry into the market. But for now, let's go over to Enoch in Ghana. Enoch, do you want to take us through your market to date? You're still on mute, Enoch.
Yeah, sorry. It looks like I was unmuted. Sorry, my video does not show too clear here. Is it clear on your side? I just see a black and white screen.
It's completely clear on my side.
Okay, super. Then I'd just like to welcome everybody also to Accra, Ghana. I'm currently speaking from Accra. It's bright and sunny. And the main idea is we still have a lot of renewable energy opportunities here. What we know is that with the updates of the Renewable Energy Act, it allows for more fluid engagement. And I should also confirm that there are different stakeholders that are focusing also on tying in energy efficiency activities into renewable energy solutions. So there's that nexus and there's that combination. So it's interesting for you to have that open mind about the sector when you are engaging Ghana. So I just want to keep it snappy and short for now, coming later when there are further talks made, but just to hammer on the fact that it's important to have the renewable energy and energy efficiency go hand in hand. And also finally, the issue of skills development. That is a big agenda now, where we're focusing a lot more on technical skills development and developing curriculum around that also in the energy sector with regards to the sector skills body. So I just like to leave that for now on the table and to talk about the fact that also there's a lot of investment opportunities. So we'll take it on when the meeting goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Enoch. I think the skills development or capacity building exercises is extremely important for safe and quality installations in Africa to make sure that we can continue with the technologies that we are trying to drive. Can I ask you, before I move on, is there a particular number of the market size in Ghana?
Particular number size, I can't give that off the top of my head. I can just look it up again and then confirm with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Enoch. Then let's move over to Prosper. Prosper, in Tanzania, what is the market looking like for renewable energy and solar PV specifically?
Thank you, Nivesh. So for Tanzania, it's not different from other African countries. From the generation capacity, the current generation capacity of 1,600 megawatts, a minor share is coming from renewable energy, less than 1%. But from the updated power system master plan, with the target of generating 2044, the government has set aside renewable energy targets, which would provide 12% of the generation capacity from renewable energy sources, and about 3.5% from solar and 4% from wind, which would in total, together with generation from geothermal, would make a total generation capacity from renewable energy sources to 12%. We have some ongoing projects, solar ongoing projects. 150 megawatt solar project and 200 megawatt wind project, which are developed by the national utility. And we also have some small projects as well, a 10 megawatt solar and a 5 megawatt solar, which has already been commissioned recently. And the government has also signed a loan from the French Development Agency to develop a 50 megawatt solar project as well. So there's a very good indication that our country now is adopting to renewable energy generation. And I think with the current ongoing projects, as well as with the targets that I have mentioned, I think we are quite positive that in the very near future, we'll have a strong generation from the renewable energy sources in Tanzania.
That sounds very positive. Thank you. Thank you, Prosper. I think across all of the countries in the African region, one of our biggest struggles is advocating with our governments for more renewable energy. And even in saying that, I think here in South Africa, we've gotten good policy indicators or signals from government that is saying that we are moving towards renewable energy. I think the biggest one for us here in South Africa is the the integrated resource plan that has come out, that is showing us that renewable energy or solar PV specifically, not even renewable energy, solar PV specifically will increase 400% over the next 9 years, from 3% of our energy use in 2020 to 11% of the energy consumption in 2030. So we are seeing positive signals. Let's talk about those kinds of indicators and signals. Prosper, I see you've alluded to them. Alan, you also started to talk about the policy or the government indicators. Can you give us more insights into what's happening in Uganda? You're on mute. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. So yes, in Uganda, I think just for some context, I think it would be important to note that the Solar Association has only really been formally recognized by the government over the last 4 years. And that in part was due to sort of a collaborative effort by World Bank, UNCDF. And so since then, Ministry of Energy has also actively been supporting the association, giving them space to operate. And due to that, we've actually seen that in the last 3 years, a national off-grid strategy and plan was also initiated, which clearly sort of stated that solar should be a critical part of this, but it was not as detailed as the on-grid or the grid extension plan, which went as clear down to budgets and whatnot. And so the policy environment is sort of enabling in that way that there is a provision for it. But I think that it needs to be taken a step further to sort of co-create and really flesh out what portion really needs to go to solar and what part the off-grid players need to play. And I think that is the missing link. However, that being said, I do think that the government has made incredible strides through recognizing the Solar Association and as well as giving them access to be able to have dialogue, to be able to have input. For example, on they've given the association the ability to vouch for every registered solar player that imports solar equipment. That was a huge milestone for the Ugandan sector. And also we were able to take that a step further to have a new national standard for solar equipment to the extent that the Uganda Revenue Authority really takes a formal letter from the association as proof that any company that's registered with the association is doing the right thing, understands what they're doing, and abides by the legal standards and policies to be able to comply. And so those few things give us hope that the government is pushing in the right direction. But we would really like to see that there is, a clear demarcated role for solar, more than having it as a policy statement to say, yes, solar is important and let it contribute, right? And so you find that with the National Development Plan 3 of Uganda, there's a clear target for universal access to energy by 2030. And so in that plan, there's a clearly defined target of it's around 140,000 connections annually by the grid sector. So we would like to see the same sort of commitment to off-grid, because the way things are going right now with the rate of the grid extension in Uganda, there is no way that the grid alone can universally electrify the 30 plus Ugandans who don't have access to energy and who live far from the current grid route. And so solar will have a clear role to play, and I think it will be supported by government, but to what extent is what is not clear. Yeah.
Thanks, Alan. I think the positive signals nonetheless, and that really helps with attracting foreign direct investment and allowing for the industry to grow. And I think in what you've done over the last 4 years, you've well positioned the association to be that gateway to include more renewable energy into Uganda. Sorry, Enoch, you have a follow-up question for Alan, please.
Yeah, Alan, it was interesting to hear you say that you sort of are directly supported by the Ministry of Energy and all that. I just want to understand the dynamics in your context then, because it almost is like the one to which sometimes you might have to advocate certain things on behalf of your members too is directly supporting you. So how do you have your independence? Where do you draw the lines? I'm particularly interested in that because sometimes, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And I just want to understand in the context of how you actually work within those blurred lines. I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So with Uganda has a very interesting relationship funding-wise. for energy spend. And so you find that the international community were willing to invest in solar, but they really needed an independent body to be able to self-regulate without government intervention. And so that's where USEA came from. And government was very willing to house this independent body at its genesis within one of the ministry offices. And so that's where that relationship started. But I would like to note that since then, 3 years ago, we did manage to get our own independent office space, but that relationship has never ended because along with the co-founding companies that started the association, government or Ministry of Energy is still the line ministry that was also there at the genesis, and they fully embody sort of the spirit of which the association was formed, and they fully support it when it comes to issues of self-regulation, issues of making sure that companies are compliant to taxes, making sure that companies are actually selling the right sort of standards of solar equipment, and so for that purpose, they need us, and so because it makes it easier for them. And so it's this sort of type of relationship that we have, but for sure, there are instances like when every financial year like this year, I expect again to have multiple meetings again, lobbying because of the new changes in tax laws or the new policies around how companies import goods or bundle them. And that is a conversation we always have to protect the solar companies for, because that's why we're here. And so in that instance, then yes, it becomes a battle of policies as opposed to they dictate and we follow, because yeah, the law unfortunately is not biased when it comes to implementation. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Enoch. Thanks. Thanks, Alan. I did get cut off at some point, so I missed a little bit of it. And I see Prosper's also having internet problems, so he's also been dropped. Hopefully he'll join us again. But colleagues, maybe just to mention at this point that under the Global Solar Council, the African Task Force is being formed with all of the industry associations across Africa. And it is for this particular reason, so we can learn from each other, so we can swap notes, so we can help each other to say this is what worked in our country and may be able to work in your country, and be able to share and create strategies to advance renewable energy and solar PV specifically across the region. Moving on from there, Azai, I need to come back to you. So talking about application of solar PV, you spoke about a number of different areas in Zimbabwe that is looking at solar PV. What are the trends showing you guys in Zimbabwe? Where is solar PV being applied? In which sectors are they being applied, and why are they being applied in those particular sectors?
Right. Thanks, Nivesh. I think before I go into the sectors, just to highlight the fact that we in 2019 we had a renewable energy policy which was adopted, and we were part of that as well in contributing to that policy, where we set targets to have installed capacity of 1,100 megawatts or 16.5% of the electricity supply by 2025, whichever is greater. And another target was also 2,100 megawatts or 26.5%, whichever is greater of the electricity, generated in, by 2030. So of those targets, the significant portion of that is also coming from solar PV. Now we are looking at the implementation phase of that renewable energy policy. Going back to the points that you raised as to where are we seeing the trends, we have quite a lot of CNI development projects that are taking place at the moment. We also have got another instrument that was also passed on net metering, where we are allowing anybody who has excess, electricity generation to feed in back to the grid, and then you can draw back that power as and when you need it. So we have got a lot of activity in that area where the rooftop solar solutions that have been installed, a lot of people are actually going to register for net metering in that area. So we've got rooftop solar solutions, whether it be industrial, commercial, we've got also mining. Then we've got also agriculture, which is also, picking up in terms of solar water pumping, and, farming operations, solutions, taking up solar PV as solutions. And then we've got, mini grids. We've got a number of projects that are actually now feeding to the grid, and some that are actually being constructed as well. It's such that, we actually looking at something like, more than 50 to 100 megawatts projects that are actually under construction at the moment. And that's where the trend. And then the other area where we've also seen activity is that on solar home systems, where decentralized, units are being actually put up in the rural areas to provide, electricity for our populace. So those are the current trends in as far as the country is concerned. I must say, though we don't have much data, but we are very much aware of activity that's taking place within the industry, and which has also seen a lot of participants coming into the sector. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I think that's very encouraging to see the different sectors that are applying solar PV. Here in South Africa as well, a lot of it is the commercial industrial application. I think, and we have about just under 2 gigawatts of that's already been installed. I think moving forward for us, we're seeing a shift to mining. A lot of mining companies are looking at putting on solar PV plants for self-generation, self-consumption that allows them to reduce the cost of their operations and thereby making them more efficient, more feasible in their business operations. And I think a new emerging sector in South Africa is green hydrogen, and solar PV will play a huge role in supplying the generation of new green hydrogen going forward. Prosper, you guys in Tanzania, where you guys seeing the trends? Where the sectors?
Nivesh, can you please come again with the question?
I'm just asking in Tanzania, where are the trends? Which sectors are looking at solar PV and renewable energy particularly?
Thank you, Nivesh. So in Tanzania, I think solar has contributed a big percent of energy access, in particular in off-grid areas. It is estimated that solar home system has contributed to 30% of electricity access in Tanzania, especially in rural areas. There's a potential of over 9 million households which can be actually connected or have access to electricity via a solar home system. The emerging markets are actually agriculture, and we have seen one of the companies presented by GET.invest, Simsolar, is doing quite well in that aspect, but there are also a number of other private companies doing the same in that area. Commercial and industrial solar is one of the emerging markets as well. We see a good number of projects on that segment as well coming up. Utility scale, as I've already mentioned, the government is implementing projects in that segment. Mini grids is one of the potential areas, despite the fact that we have some policy challenges on that aspect, but the potential is quite huge. Tourism, as you know, our country is one of the very tourism destination in Africa, and most of the tourism sites are in off-grid areas, and solar PV has actually contributed a lot to bring electricity in most of the tourism sites in Tanzania. Mining as well, we see that is also coming up. So in general, we believe that renewable energy, and in particular solar, is going to contribute a lot in most of the emerging markets of renewable energy.
Excellent. Thank you, Prosper. I want to move over to technology. So we heard this week from the Minister of Energy here in South Africa that an energy mix or mix of technologies is our best option at an energy future. And he particularly pointed out that wind, solar PV plus nuclear would be the future of energy. And I think this is much debatable across the world. So with all of the electricity generation technology options that we have, why is renewable energy or solar PV most suitable for the African market? I know there's no strategy that deviates from energy efficiency first and then renewable energy or generation to meet that demand. But let's start with you. What do you think? Why renewable energy and solar PV is most suitable for Africa?
Well, I think first and foremost, by our geographical location, it's the natural giving that we are to consider renewable energies, and particularly solar for that matter. I would say I remember 10 years ago when I was in Denmark, there was a day that Germany had hit its peak sort of solar in the mix, and that capacity was not one I had seen before, even in Ghana. And I was shocked because Germany is a place where you have a lot of cold, and you don't have a lot of sunshine. So why do they have the ability to do that? It's just because they had a lot more installed systems, and that's what unfortunately we don't have. And so the discussions earlier about the trends, again here, is that we are looking at a lot more of C&I installations. A lot of rooftops are happening. For example, yesterday we had a launch of a program called the SunRef program. I'm sure some of you might have it in your country. The Sustainable Use of Renewable Energy and Financing, which is by the Alliance Agence de Français, ADF, the French agency, working with the EU. They are looking at it to particularly be able to provide credit lines for people to have renewable energy and energy efficiency installation. So yes, it's important to be able to consider it based on the climate. But I think more importantly also is the fact that it makes a lot of business sense because the cost of PV, comparing it with traditional energy, is sort of going down. So it makes a lot of sense to go into that technology than only rely on what you have. And for me, I'll generalize it and move away from PV and say renewable energy in general also allows for you to have a connection between environmental solution and energy solution. So particularly the need to think of biomass, biogas, and others to be sustainable is important. So I think these are the three things I'll say for now, and I'm sure there are others who have corroboration and to add on as well. But I'll leave it for now and say yes, there are these opportunities that exist, and that's the reason why it's important to go that way.
Thanks, Enoch. Alan, coming to you. So I think that renewable energy still has this problem of base load that people keep throwing around, that we don't have the consistency of being able to generate a base load, and normally couple renewable energy with a thermal source of energy as well. In South Africa, looking at gas, a lot of our research points to gas being able to supplement renewable energy and work well together to create an energy system or supply that is able to meet the demand here in South Africa. What are some of the coupling technologies that you think renewable energy should work with in Africa?
Wow, that's a very big question. But let me see how I tackle this. Yeah, so I mean, I can first start with Uganda, then I can draw it to Africa. But yeah, so that has always been sort of the first sort of push we always get from like policymakers that doesn't make sense to create a government program to invest in this because people just don't have the energy demand to really consume after the investment is made, especially on a large scale sort of commercial size PV installation. But that has actually been sort of sobered by especially last year's COVID sort of lockdown, where people actually had to spend more time at home and realized that actually the energy needs are actually much higher than earlier than people really thought. And so we really saw that people actually had a need to sort of, charge their phones. And with the increase of sort of cell phone penetration and the number of people actually accessing the internet, you find that these needs are going up and people are actually able to afford these highly efficient sort of technologies that previously they were sort of not able to afford. For example, nowadays people can access a flat screen TV at a much cheaper price than 5 years ago. So as Enoch was saying, the cost of technology is decreasing, and the only limiting factor right now is the battery technology to catch up. And I'm sure that within the next 5 years, that will get to a point where a majority of households in Africa can actually realistically afford a lot of these appliances that can be used with solar. And then we will see sort of a twist in the market where a majority of households' primary source of energy is solar, and the grid becomes a backup. And we've already seen that trend with especially the last mile households who cannot even fathom to own a grid connection. The first energy source after like maybe an energy efficient cook stove is usually a small tier 1 solar lantern, right? And the GOGLA data can back that up, especially for, you see most people's reason for accessing the solar technology nowadays is access to light. And then soon after that, it's income generation. So I've seen this for example, in areas of at-risk populations like the refugee camps in Uganda. A lot of these entrepreneurs in those camps are buying solar systems to generate income from having like local video halls, right? And they're willing to make that investment much quicker than making an investment to buy a fridge or buy, get grid to their house. And so to come back to Africa, yeah, the sort of coupling or the complementary technologies that I see over the next few years coming in to sort of work with solar would be maybe highly efficient agriculture equipment. But even before that, I would say maybe cooking equipment. I've seen some really good energy efficient stoves that are mixed with solar where they come coupled with a lighting system, but they're still very rudimentary right now and they're not very efficient. But I see them going to that direction. And then coupled with that would be, agricultural value sort of solar and power enabled equipment that can allow people to commercially produce within their household. So no longer do they need to spend so much. For example, now you see the water pumps already getting smaller and more efficient. But I think that with the efficiency of the batteries improving, we can see that could even be scaled further. And so these are the main things: cooking, and then agricultural products, maybe for pumping, but also for cooling. I've seen huge strides in the cooling sector also, where you have like a rechargeable e-mobility bike that also doubles as a charger for your household or a charger for your bike cooler, things like that, that actually help generate more income, but also prolong the life of their produce. And so, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I asked the big questions here because we are the leaders in this space that are supposed to be making a difference. And we have the opportunity, so we should take it. And we should be thinking even beyond renewable energy to see what's best for our countries and what's best for the people of our countries to make sure that everyone has equal access, especially to a basic need like electricity. So it's very important to pose these questions and not just to answer them, but to think about them and take them back to our strategies. In saying that, I think that you covered behavioral issues, right? So for South Africans and Africans who do not have access to electricity, it's a mindset that says, okay, solar PV, a solar PV system in my home will be my primary source of energy and then back up by the grid. But those who have had access to the national grids have that idea of baseload, that they will have a constant supply that is coming to their household. So it's a behavioral change and a shift in mindset that is very difficult to get into people. But yeah, so that transitions me into the next question I have. Isaiah, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So these are social challenges. These are social challenges. When we talk about social challenges in South Africa and the rest of Africa, there are a number of different factors that we look at, right? Skills, decent jobs, ownership of business, and the rest of it. How is renewable energy or solar PV addressing the socio-economic challenges that our countries are facing as developing nations?
Right, thanks, Navesh. You're really putting me on the spot, but anyway. Right, I think solar PV or renewable energy per se is actually the gateway to solving the SDG goals challenges. Right now, I think everybody is starting to relook at the issue of jobs. There are some jobs that were never in existence in our countries, like PV solar installer was never there. Biogas digester installer were never there. So curriculum has to be developed to actually, capture those new green jobs that are coming up. And you have to go back and start saying, it's not only at university that you can teach this kind of jobs. You have to go back to primary school and actually also educate, the kids to understand the impact of renewable energy or solar PV that it is having on our social, solutions. So on the skills side, we are saying there is need for us to train people, and there is the number of jobs that you can also create with renewable energies. I think it's like ×3 if you put money into renewable energy. So there is a huge impact that you can have on employment. There is also a huge impact that you can have on decent, maybe jobs and sustainable livelihoods. Take for example, people that have been using manual means to irrigate their crops, and now they can use solar pumping, right? Which then increases the efficiencies, right? Yeah, in as far as water use. It also helps in terms of them growing crops on throughout the year. You might actually end up having to grow cash crops, and you have maybe 3 crops, throughout the, a year, rather than waiting for rain-fed, cropping, as it were. So there is that impact that's coming up as well. In addition, we're also seeing, the impact in as far as gender equality is concerned, where the work for our women is actually being lessened. The issues to do with education, the issues to do with health, the issues to do with climate change. so water efficiency use, etc., etc. So there's a huge impact that renewable energy is going to have, you know, in as far as the social economic impacts are concerned. Because the costs have come down, right? It's easier now to roll out these projects. It's easier to to actually put them in the plants. And yeah, I would say that's really where I'm seeing this coming through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josiah. Enoch, I see you want to input on this. Tell us the socioeconomic challenges, how are they being addressed by renewable energy and solar PV?
Yes, so to add on to what Isaiah had said, I think that particular aspect of gender is also one that is coming in strongly. Because as you'd realize, if you are to even look at the clean cook stoves market, unfortunately, it's been polarized to women. But then there are others that could also do a lot more in terms of males who will be into the braais, you know, the barbecues and others who might need the briquettes and others that are in there. So it's all about how we package it and sell it. So I think it's really, really interesting to allow for, like I said earlier, the energy and environment mix to have a space together and to have discussions. What I also see in this conversation, like was said, I think Alan said it, that you can have smaller pumps and they are more efficient now. The whole idea is it's true to be able to have the farmers also appreciate exactly what we are talking about. And usually, unfortunately, outside of the world, agriculture has not seen its best inputs. Because, for example, Ghana has had cocoa as its major cash crop since the very early ages. But we don't reap as much in terms of the value that is brought to it, because all we do is to export the raw beans. If we would want to go into other processing using renewable energy technologies, or allow for the farmers to have sort of renewable energy in their for the productive use there, they can gain a lot more value. Then we can also integrate it into the manufacturing sector and ensure that we open it up. Then that's where we would find a lot more value coming in. And you can have the achievement of the SDGs, like Isaiah said, in a way that you really leave no one behind. Unfortunately, we tend to, by our general practices, leave a lot of people behind based on our perception of the jobs that they do or what it's valued at. And that's quite sad, because I always give this example. My eye-opener was that I was in a country where farmers had come together to build 10 windmills, you know, and you think about it, farmers, do they have that amount of money? Yes, they do. You know, it's just how we positioned it. So it's just a really huge mindset change, because that's what it gets to. Even getting the farmers themselves to appreciate what it is you're bringing to them, you know, in a way that works. So I'd say decent work, sustainable development and all that, they are all quite linked with how you can sort of leapfrog the technology challenges. And we've done that with mobile phones, you know. Now people have more than one. I'm carrying 2 mobile phones here. And so it's important to know what we can do out of it. So I think we can push a bit further and we'll make the impact. Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Spot on. I think here we are dealing with issues of gender diversity, which is very important for us. Participation of youth, to include youth more in our ongoing matters, in energy holistically and renewable energy specifically, and then also Black participation and Black ownership, so Black business ownership. How do we get Indigenous people owning shares within these businesses, managing these businesses, controlling these the interests of these businesses, and making sure that their voices are heard. Alan, coming to you, talking about the last mile and the social impact. How is solar PV or renewable energy in your country bridging the last mile?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so in Uganda, as I said, we've seen that the sort of the concentration of solar providers is mainly within the capital city, but we have seen sort of the growth of development partners putting out initiatives that sort of encourage these players to sort of move out further into the last mile. And that is sort of one of the key sort of, I think, critical parts of this, is to actually have a focus on it, national dialogue, or make sure that this is sort of a genuine focus that the government is pushing, as opposed to, if you read a lot of the literature nowadays, for Uganda, you'll find that the, I guess, NDP1, the National Development Plan versions have all really pushed grid, but now with this off-grid strategy and plan, there's this push to serve the unserved. And then with the influx of, which has sort of coincided with a lot of press around Uganda, having a lot of refugees being hosted in the country in areas that are far off grid, which has actually pushed and incentivized a lot of these players to actually, be present in those areas, which has improved the ability for them to serve, because now they have that logistics, which is sort of the first stepping stone, is to really set up the brick and mortar to be able to serve, or to be able to even house safely your equipment. And so that is one thing that is pushing at least the companies that are part of the association to get there. The other one is there's now sort of USEA, which is the Uganda Solar Energy Association, which is under the Ugandan National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Association Alliance, a mouthful. But they were able to now vouch for solar players, and even government, as I said before, and the Uganda Revenue Authority, at the point of importing these technologies, are actually advising them if they want to benefit from a tax exemption on the solar generation and storage equipment. So essentially the batteries and the core solar components, they need to be part of an association like USEA. So that we make sure that we actually collect the data on the usage of these systems, verify that they're actually going into solar application. It has pushed a lot of these players, even regionally, in the last mile to sort of sign up to benefit, but also to streamline and actually serve the populations out there and be vocal about it, because it benefits them in the long run. And so you find that a lot of the last mile is now actually catching up. The sort of electrification rates there have moved a little bit, and that slight movement is encouraging and shows that there is a lot more uptake there. But mainly it is, as I said before, being pushed by sort of a lot of the international players that are in the market, but as well as the development partners who are sort of incentivizing this sort of approach. Government is still pushing sort of the grid, sort of moving along with their national grid expansion plan, and which goes first from the capital cities, then to the sort of the secondary cities. And so you find that a lot of the other players that are not yet registered with the association are sort of scattered around there, where you find a lot of the Ugandans who have additional money or disposable income to be able to invest, who have grid connections, but want a more reliable lighting solution, are also investing in solar. And so they are also making this sort of, I guess, attractive for the regional people. And then you couple that with an election year last year, where MPs' big cry is, we're bringing you power, and they purchase a lot of solar systems and give them out in their villages or in their constituencies. It's a good mix that is happening.
Good, good. Thank you very much for that, Alan. I wish we had more time. I wish we could continue. There's so much more that I'd love to discuss with all of you. We haven't even gotten to grid infrastructure, smart grids. I still wanted to touch on localization. I wanted to touch on quality of components coming into Africa. I wanted to touch on a number of different challenges that we are all facing, I'm sure. But I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to do that through the Global Solar Council African Task Force and working together going forward. I think just to wrap up, then maybe to give you all an opportunity to wrap up, how is your association supporting the growth of the sector, whether it be renewable energy sector or PV specific sector, and what kind of support do you require to promote more renewable energy or solar PV in your country? So I'd like you to address that in your closing remarks. Prosper, let's start with you.
Thank you, Nivesh. So in Tanzania, I think the biggest challenge that we are currently facing is police enforcement, and in particular for the mini-grid sector. Really, if to try to engage and dialogue with the government to address the policy challenge and the tariff setting for the mini-grid sector. But we will not be successful if we don't see subsidies going into the off-grid sector. We all understand that the electricity sector in general is heavily subsidized, but not much is going into the off-grid sector. And I want to call upon all the stakeholders to make sure that we increase subsidies, or we make sure that we have more subsidies going into the off-grid sector. We also do a lot to make sure that we build the local capacity. I think local companies have a great role to play if we at all we want to have an impact on the ground. So capacity for local companies, local technicians, local artisans is something that we are pushing forward to make sure that we have an increased impact on the ground level. So maybe to wrap up, I would like to thank GSS for inviting us to the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prosper. Isaiah, tell us from a Zimbabwe Renewable Energy Association point of view, what is your association doing to support the sector, and what kind of support do you need to promote more renewable energy?
Thank you, Nivesh. I think the issue that we've been seized with is on advocacy for policies. You know, having an enabling environment for the sector, the issues to do with standards, the issues to do with regulatory frameworks, making sure that we have quality products. We also have proper installations. You know, basically making sure that the industry is well supported to ensure that our populace get, you know, the products that they are paying for, and that they are of a standard nature. We also are lobbying for incentives for the sector, particularly the issues to do with duty waivers. And we're also looking to see whether we can also, you know, convince the authorities to also waive VAT to, you know, to incentivize the sector. I think the issue that has been mentioned by Prosper is also key to our hearts, the issue of enforcement and making sure that, you know, borders don't leak, as it were. So that there is no unfair competition, that we have an even playing field for our players. What we would like to see, obviously, is greater partnership, more investment that comes in to support the local industry as well. We're looking at partnership with the outside world for our memberships, to ensure that obviously we deliver on the targets that have been set. I think there is a big role that renewable energy can play in the economy, and I think, you know, there is an opportunity for investment to come into the country as well. Yeah, I'd say that's basically what we've been trying to, and also thanks to Global Solar Council for having invited us to come and talk at this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Azaya. I see we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask the next colleagues to keep it very short. And Gianni, please do allow us 2 or 3 extra minutes just to get through this. Enoch, can I ask you from your point of view, what is the association doing and what support do you require?
Okay, so to keep it very crisp, whatever Isaiah has said particularly is the same cut and paste. Absolutely. I mean, we're doing just about the same thing. Trying to get the market to be appreciative of renewable energy and energy efficiency, incentivizing it, speaking to government, lobbying, advocacy, all that. So I'll say people should just play back and watch if they haven't listened to him and all that. But what I can just add again is the issue of life cycle management is one thing that the Renewable Energy Association has been thinking of. And so if there's any further collaboration and support in that regard, we'll be happy for that. But one thing about support I'd like to state emphatically is that we are long past the issues of people handing down money and thinking that they can be the drivers of the conversation. It's more of a mutual partnership. Let's move towards with that understanding. And I think it makes it nicer because we've seen far often than not, our partners who come in as development partners or as collaborators sometimes are unwilling to really showcase why they are in the partnership. And we want to change that mindset. So I think emphatically, that's one thing I just want to leave on the table, that let's support ourselves by going into things as equal partners. And I think it'll be a better relationship than sometimes being top down and heavy. So that's what I would say to end it. Also about the gender equality and things around gender. Let's keep on pushing STEM. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Enoch. I think that makes a lot of sense. And as we hear each other, we realize how much of overlap there is in all of the African countries. I think the one thing that I'm waiting for someone to say, and I'm hoping, Alan, you're going to take your opportunity. GET.invest is on the call. They support associations. What support should they be giving us? So Alan, just to close it out, please, you've got 1 minute before I have to hand over.
All right. Yeah, so from my end, I will touch on that first, I guess. Yeah, the associations need a lot of capacity support as well. If you look at the sort of work and the sort of traction GOGLA is having, think of that scaled at the country level. If they had, for example, the personnel, and we don't really need money, we need actual access to resources, human resources, but also the technical knowledge and the structures and templates to be able to, for example, do something as simple as data collection, to actually report on the activities of our companies. Then to also, in addition to that, be able to build capacity within the local companies that we're supporting, to formalize them so that we can get them profitable and get them to be sustainable. So the work USAID is doing right now is basically more around regional lobbying, because we've managed to do the national taxation handbook to help the local companies be able to sort of navigate the tax policies here. But we really need to harmonize the regional tax policies and their implementation, because the policies are there, but they're implemented differently by different sort of countries. And that harmony would help us tremendously with how the treatment and classification of solar systems are being managed right now, especially within Sub-Saharan Africa. And to go with that, I would say that awareness, we can never do enough of that, especially within the policymakers. And I mean something as simple as a policy guideline or policy book brief that really shows these people the simplicity and the difference of what a solar system really is. I think that is necessary. And then government has a lot of on-grid free connection policies. And I think the same should be given, or the same specificity, the same sort of criteria should be given, and the same sort of time should be given to the off-grid sector, because we play an equally important role. And lastly, Uganda, as I'm sure you all know, is going through another lockdown right now for this COVID pandemic, and solar is still not classified as an essential service. I think that this is something that really needs to be rectified globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. You've summarized it perfectly for me. cross-cutting issues across all of the African countries, including us here in South Africa. We also hit a lockdown in this third wave. Unfortunately enough, we've managed to get solar PV considered as an essential service. So we are happy to share how we did that as well with our governments. But I think going forward, the African Task Force will be a good platform for all of us to share our knowledge, share our learnings, see what each of us are doing and how that can assist the rest of us and move forward in that way. So again, thank you very much from my side to each and every one of you for sharing on your countries, on your markets, on your personal thoughts and developments into renewable energy and solar PV specifically. Thank you all. I think with that, Gianni, let me hand over back to you to close out.
Yes, actually, I'd like to ask you to stay online because I'd like to close with all of you anyway in broadcast. I think it was a great panel, a great conclusion anyway, and really a lot of content. In my conclusion, this is the conclusion of the 2 days event. It's been an intensive event with around 40 speakers on different topics. We had really a 2 days events. The first brought on a focus on the globe, and the second day on Africa. And just to anyway summarize some key message, because it really is impossible to bring all the messages because everything anyway will be recorded and available online. But I'd like to start with some messages from La Camera, yesterday, the Director General of IRENA. So I'd like to bring you to the big picture. The importance of the decision we are taking today and in the coming years really will affect our future, and that there is no longer room for errors. Very important message. And the COP26 coming and the G20 will be very important meetings. This COP26 will be even important than the COP21 after the pandemic, because really we will decide about our future. The post-pandemic has changed completely our target scenarios. So decisions, of course, a lot of money are going to be invested, but without a proper strategy and plan, we risk really to fail our goals. And of course, so with the energy transition is an opportunity that we cannot afford to miss. This is also one sentence of Mr. La Camera. By 2030, the 1.5% pathway would boost the global GDP of 2.4% above the current plans and strategy. This is a huge number. Anyway, solar, we have confirmed that solar is the most resilient and growing sector, but today only 3% of the energy produced in the world is coming from solar. So there is a lot to do in order really to deploy the potential of solar. There is a growing demand of solar PV worldwide, but we need flexibility. We need to redesign the market. We need, in most countries, especially the developed countries, anyway, passing from a centralized system to a decentralized system is not so easy. And renewables and especially solar is one of the biggest source of new jobs. And in the next decades, 38 million of jobs will be created within the renewable sector, and a large part is solar. And we need, of course, policy, proper financing mechanism. But as said this morning by Green Power, the financing mechanism are acting more as a risk mitigation measures, which are fundamental for investors to feel comfortable. Solar energy is already the cheapest source of energy in general, and especially in Africa. We need to stop financing, supporting fossil fuels. There is no sense to put our money, our tax into global warming. It's really no sense in this moment. Education, building capacity is absolutely key for the sustainable transition. Regulators need to simplify as much as possible, accelerate the permitting, really to speed up large-scale project and also distributed installation. And solar is not alone. Solar need to join forces with all renewables. We need to join we need to really work together with all the value chain, from the manufacturers until the consumers and customers, and in order to really work together to disseminate also values, because there will be no sustainability without social values, without good governance, ethics, inclusion, gender. These are really values that need to be spread in all the value chain. And we need to work we are going towards the electrification of many sectors aside of a power sector that will increase the demand, like heating, industry, transportation, that will represent really a huge opportunity also for the solar sector as well as the water, for instance. Going to the second day, we have been talking since this morning about the enormous potential of Africa, and that as most of the total solar energy in the earth, 40–60% of the solar in the world go to Africa. So we need to capture this energy, and there is a huge increase in Africa in terms of power demand, but still 600 million of people without access, no power. Before, Alan was talking about 30 million without access to power on a country of 42 million. Is really not acceptable. And of course, we are going. The population of Africa is increasing. We are going towards, in 2050, 2.5 billion of people, and of which half of this number will be people below 25 years old. So we need to really create jobs for these people. We need to invest in education and building capabilities, because they will be our future. And anyway, Africa has an opportunity, as was said today. We can start from scratch. We can avoid the resistance that is made. Is determined in developed countries by the traditional fossil fuel central plants, and especially when you go to a population that are without power at all. And so this is an opportunity, because we have not the resistance of the old economy. Key areas, grid extension, of course. We need to we need to invest in, of course, a great opportunity from mini grids, from solar home system. In all this deployment of the African market, that has really a huge potential, but is still low, as Irina said this morning. Still only 1.48% of the total solar power in the world is representing Africa. So only a small portion, why the potential is huge. But the role of women, as stated this morning very clearly by the president of the women in Africa power electricity is fundamental for the development of the sustainable and energy transition. Women not only in a certain role, but women also in the leadership, which is very important. And we cannot, the energy and sustainable energy, solar is the prerequisite for the achievement of the sustainable developing goals. This is very fundamental, and we need to remember that access to electricity, availability to clean energy will help agriculture, will help water in Africa, will help mining, will help in general all the rural areas. But we need to remember, we need to attract investment, we need to attract also international companies, but there is not economy if we don't involve, create benefit for the local countries, for the local people, for the local companies. And the rule of the country association is fundamental, as stated by all of you anyway, in order really to create a market. We need to support and consolidate building data collection, as was said. We need to build capabilities, but we need to create associations where in the countries that have not, as not today, an association. And in general, as Global Solar Council, would like really with this second edition of the Global Solar Council Virtual Forum 2021, would like really to create another milestone in the consolidation of the partnerships with all the international organizations that have intervened in this event, from IRENA, from REN21, from IEA, from anyway, so I cannot count, and also all the organization today. And we have an important responsibility as Global Solar Council at the COP26, as every year, and especially this year, in such an important COP. We will organize, as every year, a Global Solar Council event in the blue zone, where all the governments and decision makers will be. We are discussing with the United Nations Secretariat, with the Italian government and UK government that are hosting this COP, in order to understand what are the decisions that are on the table. And our role will be, of course, for the benefits of the world to face climate change, to influence the decision. And to do that, we need the support of all of you. So thank you because this has been a huge, amazing event, your contribution, and all the materials, presentation, video will be available online, but please keep anyway, our flag, our mission, our vision is made of your flag, your contribution. So we need all of you, and we have task forces for Africa, for Southeast Asia, for Latin America. We have a strategy committee, we have a technical committee, and we need really to work all together with all our partners in order to really rapidly change this world. Thank you very much. This is my conclusion, our conclusion. Thank you very much, Niveshen, and all of you, anyway, to have concluded this session, this event, in the best way that we could together. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianni. Thank you too.